Good morning, children. Welcome to the English session. Today, we shall be dealing with the lesson Birth by A.J. Cronin. Birth is an excerpt from The Citadel that revolves around Andrew Manson, who just graduated out of medical school. It is an account of how the newly graduated medical practitioner helped in bringing Joe and Susan's child into this world despite going through a tough time with his girlfriend Christine. Dr. Andrew had recently graduated from medical college. He was practicing as an assistant to Dr. Edward Page in a small Welsh mining town called Blenheim. One night he was returning home when he found Joe Morgan waiting for him outside the doctor's home. He had been there for more than an hour. He looked relaxed to see the doctor. He informed that the doctor was needed at their home as his wife was expecting to deliver a baby after almost 20 years of marriage. Dr. Andrew asked him to wait for a few minutes. He went inside, got his medical bag, and set out for Joe Morgan's house. Joe Morgan stopped outside the house and requested Dr. Andrew to go inside alone. Through a narrow staircase, the doctor reached a small, clean, but scantily furnished room. He found two women beside the patient: Susan Morgan's mother, a tall, gray haired woman of nearly 70, and an elderly midwife. Susan's mother offered him a cup of tea. So Dr. Andrew sensed that she didn't want him to leave as there would be some waiting period. Dr. Andrew was tired but still decided to stay. An hour later, Dr. Andrew went to check the patient and came down. The restless footsteps of Joe Morgan could be heard as he paced the street outside. Dr. Andrew was so deep in his thoughts that the voice of the old lady, Susan Morgan's mother, surprised him. She informed him that her daughter didn't want him to give her chloroform if it would harm the baby. Dr. Andrew replied that it would do no harm. Just then he heard the midwife's voice. It was 3:30, and Dr. Andrew perceived that it was time for him to start working on the delivery. After a harsh struggle for an hour, the child was born, a perfectly formed boy. Unfortunately, it was not breathing. A shiver of horror passed over Dr. Andrew. He had promised the family so much. He wanted to resuscitate the child, but the mother herself was in a very desperate state. He gave the child to the midwife and turned his attention to Susan Morgan, the mother, who was lying unconscious. Her pulse was slow and her strength was reducing. After a few minutes of continuous efforts, he stabilized her by giving her an injection. Then he asked for the child. The midwife had kept the child under the bed, presuming him to be dead. Dr. Andrew pulled out the child. His head was hanging loosely and the limbs seemed boneless. He concluded that the child was suffering from asphyxia pallida, which is an abnormal medical condition in a newly born baby. Dr. Andrew recalled a case he had once seen in the Samaritan, a medical journal, and the treatment that was given. He asked the midwife to quickly get hot water and cold water in two bowls. He started plunging the child once into the icy water and then into the steaming bath alternatively. 15 minutes passed and nothing happened. Dr. Andrew was getting frustrated. He could see the unbelieving faces of the midwife and the old lady, but he continued his efforts. Dr. Andrew started rubbing the child's chest with a rough towel and thumping his little chest, trying to get breath into that limp body. Then, as if by miracle, the child's chest began moving. Dr. Andrew felt weak and nervous at the sight of life springing under his hands. He redoubled his efforts, and the child was now breathing. Life came to his limbs, head became erect, the child's skin started turning pink, and suddenly the child cried. The midwife exclaimed with tears of happiness in her eyes, "Oh God, he has come alive." After so much frantic effort and success, Dr. Andrew felt weak and speechless. The old woman, Susan's mother, was still standing against the wall praying. Andrew went downstairs and told that he would fetch his bag later on. He found Joe Morgan still waiting with an anxious, eager face. Dr. Andrew gave the happy news that both the mother and the baby were all right. Andrew was really happy and exclaimed, "Oh God, I've done something real at last." He had achieved a feat in medical history which would certainly brighten his future. With that, we have come to the end of our session. Thank you and have a nice day.